So we will revise partly because often we see we read something or attend a lecture with lot of interest, but then after few days it's all gone. So the revision is beneficial to put it in the long-term memory, and you guys are attending so sincerely, so I would like some of it to go in your long-term memory. Okay. So very briefly, let's revise. So we saw that a lot of celebrities are putting in a lot of effort to misguide the youth into believing that the cool way to enjoy life and become successful in life is to drink and smoke, right? The Indian cricket team first did advertisement of pills and taught the country how to smoke. And now they have realized that advertising for tobacco is a bad thing. So they have started advertising for alcohol. So we have a responsibility as a society to guide the youngsters about the truth of these addictive poisons. Otherwise, how can we blame for wanting to try that? So we first looked at, okay, what are the various ways in which alcohol kills other than liver cirrhosis and pancreatitis and accidents. Then we looked at heart attacks and strokes, infectious diseases like tuberculosis, pneumonia, HIV, cancers, murders, suicides. 18% murders, 18% suicides are because of alcohol. Then we looked at how which all cancers are because of that. So mouth, pharynx, larynx, esophagus, colon, rectum, liver, and female breast. Then 33% of road traffic accidents are because of alcohol. It's 30 lakh deaths, one in every 10 seconds. It's important to tell people that this can happen to anyone. It's not that it can happen only to few illiterate people. A lot of well-educated, wealthy, successful people also ruin their life when they touch this addictive poison. Similarly, tobacco, it causes deaths through cancers of various parts of the body, heart attacks and strokes, lungs getting damaged, resulting in infections as well as COPD. The American Cancer Society had done a 20-year-long study which had shown that 30% of cancer deaths are just because of tobacco, among various other findings. And that is why the developed country has started regarding tobacco to be a very bad thing. Consequently, so 20% of male premature deaths are because of tobacco. Total 87 lakh deaths, and around 10% of these are in innocent passive smokers. Yet 42% males and 14% women in our country take this addictive poison due to lack of awareness. And like happened in USA, when awareness was spread on a large scale by private players as well as government machineries, NGOs, things have changed there dramatically. Tobacco consumption has gone down dramatically in the developed countries. New Zealand, as you all know, has gone to the extent of banning it completely. So it has said that, okay, those who are addicted, we can't help. But the newer generation, we will not allow them to get addicted. It is banned to sell to someone below 18 years of age. That's because when awareness spreads, then rest of the things happen. So while awareness alone is not enough, but it is the first basic prerequisite for setting things in motion. Then the second point we saw is even before it kills, it harms the quality of your life in multiple ways. So what are the 10 ways in which it harms the quality of life? First would be it causes multiple disabling diseases. We saw especially that people are not aware of delusion of infidelity or morbid jealousy, and it can be nice to inform them about that. Then we looked at impotence. Important to mention this, though in a passing way. Then the physical stamina decreases, the heart is damaged, lungs are damaged, arteries of hands and legs constrict, and then the blood supply to the legs decrease. The person can't run, then he can't walk, and then even when he is at rest, not walking, the legs start to pain. Something called as peripheral vascular disease. and 80% of peripheral vascular disease is because of tobacco. Eventually, some of them result in dry gangrene and they have to cut their leg. It's a financial disaster. So it helps to, if we are counseling one-on-one or even in a group, it helps to help them see in the amount of month they spend on alcohol or tobacco, what all can be bought in that and how to what extent their quality of life can change with that much money. Then it causes work absenteeism and decreased efficiency at work. A lot of accidents at work are because of alcohol. It decreases your attractiveness. So it's nice to point out that whatever parameters of masculinity are there, actually वो कम होती है, बढ़ती definitely नहीं है. And then we saw the simplistic graph to say that craving, withdrawal, and tolerance, these are the reasons why people get addicted. And these are properties of the substance. And it can happen to anyone, irrespective of the person's willpower. And because it's so difficult to get out of the trap, the best way to protect yourself and your family from these poisons is not to touch the first drink or the first smoke. We looked at it impairs the mental health also. One of the reason it increases anxiety and depression is socioeconomic harm, the damage to the brain, the withdrawal state, and because the sleep structure is impaired. It also causes severe mental illnesses like delusion of infidelity and dementia. And especially we need to highlight to youngsters that while the brain is developing, the circuits get hardwired faster. And so the risk of addiction is more when a person starts to drink before the age of 21. Also, when a person in his growing years takes it, the damage to the brain is more and it impairs the memory, learning, judgment, and impulse control, resulting in poor grades and professional performance. Then it also acts as a gateway drug. So the legal substances available below our building, available next to the school, these are the substances because of which youngsters start with it. But that spoils their company, that introduces them to an addictive lifestyle, and one thing gives rise to the next, and they end up with hard drugs and a bad lifestyle, which takes them far away after a few years from where they had intended to go. It harms the family also because of domestic violence, the money getting wasted, disharmony in the family. The children in turn develop anxiety and depression, and they in turn start drinking alcohol because that's the only coping mechanism they've seen. Then there is fetal alcohol syndrome. And as we saw that in USA now, around 10% women who are pregnant drink alcohol, in spite of knowing that something like fetal alcohol syndrome exists. That is how addictive the substance is, and it harms the family as well. Similarly, tobacco because of passive smoking, and when the mother is herself chewing tobacco or the partner is smoking and she takes in the smoke, the fetus also get harmed. The risk of abortions and ectopic pregnancy or premature delivery is also there. And therefore, Gynec Antenatal Clinic is one of a very nice place to do de-addiction counseling. So if some of you is a gynec or from the medical field, it would be very wise to go there because one is, of course, the benefit to the family, but everyone cares a lot for their children. And especially when they are pregnant, they are thinking a lot about their child to be, who is going to come in life. And so the probability that you will be able to motivate them well, to be able to quitting is difficult. But those who have a very strong reason to quit, gathering the courage and the willpower to quit. So the future well-being of their fetus is a very strong reason, and therefore antenatal clinic is a very good place to do the counseling. Then we looked at if this is also bad, why are these addictive poisons so socially acceptable still? And we looked at one is because the poor awareness about the magnitude of the harm, because people get addicted and then start giving excuses, and because of aggressive propaganda by the industry to mislead. So we looked at all the harm and to say it in terms of data so that people get convinced about how big it is. When we look at disability in terms of disease disease-adjusted life years lost. In the young age group of 20 to 49 years, alcohol use is the most common risk factor for disability. And there are 5.7 crore Indians as of today who are suffering from problematic alcohol use. In other words, 5.7 crore Indian families are sad because of alcohol. We looked at the misconception that alcohol in moderation is good for the heart. There are studies on both the sides which say both the things, and the debate continues, but we get exposed to only one type of news which gets paid for. The American Heart Association says that this is not proven and not to start drinking for unproven health benefits. The potential dangers far outweigh the claimed benefits. And if you're really bothered about your heart, there are many well-proven ways like not smoking, eating healthy, stress management, exercise regularly, etc. Do them. Don't drink an addictive poison. This is what American Heart Association says. In spite of this, some doctors will continue to tell their patients actively. 2 days back, I had gone to a college and a girl said that her father had never taken alcohol. But because recently a doctor told him that in order for improving your heart's health, start drinking. Therefore, he has started taking. Such doctors either are ignorant, unread doctors, or they are themselves drinking and need an excuse to justify and not feel guilty. And worst case scenario, they are paid by the alcohol industry to propagate misconceptions. Better to stay away from such doctors. All major health authorities across the world have issued warnings that it is no longer regarded to be true that alcohol in moderation is good for the heart. Also, while the debate in terms of heart continues, there is very clear evidence that even light alcohol drinking, just 1 or 2 drinks per day, was responsible for more than 1 lakh cancer cases in 2020. And like it's nice to tell people, light drinking means 1 or 2 drinks and 1/4 is 6 drinks, which is a binge. So to have a good idea of what is light drinking. Second misconception we saw, which is responsible for most youngsters and other well-educated software professionals and well-earning people believing that it is okay to drink because so far as I drink responsibly in a controlled way, there is no problem. Alcohol is an addiction. No one drinks irresponsibly by choice. People get addicted even though they want to drink in control. And therefore, it is silly to believe that because I wish to drink in control, I'm not going to get harmed. Around 15% get trapped, 85% don't, but 15 is also a big number, and anyone can get trapped. While there are some risk factors which increase the vulnerability, no one can believe that I don't have a risk factor. And the remaining 85% are also not safe because around 40 to 50% alcohol users end up binging at least occasionally, if not regularly, in parties. And binge drinking can give rise to accidents wherein they can kill others or themselves. It can give rise to accidents wherein the legs or hands are permanently impaired. And second problem is another intoxication. You can misbehave. You can send messages. You can talk something rubbish, and that is gonna spoil your relations and destroy your reputation for years to come. Third misconception, beer is not alcohol. Of course, it is mild alcohol, but it is alcohol, and 1 drink of beer is as harmful as 1 drink of vodka. And people start with beer but end up with vodka tequila. Pan masala is the gateway drug, and so we should talk about it. Pan masala, though, doesn't have tobacco, it has supari and it has other harmful chemicals. Supari is also addictive, supari is also carcinogenic, and therefore pan masala is also definitely harmful. We looked at cannabis, we look at it today. Then we looked that evidence is so conclusive and that a 50-year-long study on a sample of 30,000 UK doctors has proven that 1 in 2 long-term smokers die prematurely, on an average 10 years prematurely. The evidence is so strong, and that is why courts have put it on their packet, tobacco kills. And yet, if some people say that no, there is no evidence, there is no use, some people live till 100 even though they take these substances, exceptions will always be there to any rule, but it is foolish to decide your life based on exceptions and not based on what is the commonly observed consequence of a particular behavior. We saw that the industry tries hard to project alcohol as a symbol of happiness, equality, emancipation. Recent years, you will see that each Hindi film, the lead actress has been shown to drink. Recently, I saw a Marathi film in which there was a group of women who go on a picnic, and then there were so many systematic scenes in the film which normalized drinking of alcohol for women of all age. And there were scenes which taught how to drink tequila. There were scenes which gave arguments as to why it is okay to not bother. And the best scene was a woman saying that she couldn't get educated well, so she has decided in life that to do all the things which educated women do, and which is to drink. These are systematic campaigns by the industry who employ marketing professionals and come up with ingenious ideas of creating music concerts and short films and this and that to make it appear to the younger generation that the smartest and the coolest thing to do is to drink alcohol. And for women also to believe that the way to become equal is to drink. They know that if only men drink, their market will remain half. If women also start drinking, their market is going to double. That's the best way to increase their profits, and so they are targeting women. It's important to educate girls that they are on the hook. Is it a stress buster? So it does make you forget your stress, but it doesn't solve any stress. And because you don't work on it, it keeps worsening with time. And because of the health complications and other complications, it just makes life worse. So there are various ways of becoming happy, of constructive ways of recreation. And when people engage in constructive ways of recreation, they're actually going to become more happier and happier for the long term in a consistent way. Okay, so on that note, let us start with today's topic. Let me just see if, okay, fine. Okay, so if I ask you all, how does alcohol kill? What comes to your mind? I mean, sorry, वो तो पहले ही दिन हो गया था. If I ask you which country is harmed more by alcohol, India or USA, what comes to your mind? Those who have not attended should answer. Which country is harmed more by alcohol, India or USA? Proportion wise, a bigger country will get harmed more, smaller country will get harmed less in terms of numbers. Proportion wise, which country is harmed more?
India,
India. Why India?
because it has got a larger younger population. It is still in a developing country, and the population which will be affected will be the one which is the uh, one which will be earning members of the family. It also has a social strata where usually the male dominated society. So if a senior male is doing, like you spoke yesterday, the juniors will follow. And also because once certain trends are created in India, usually there is a mass appeal for people like actors. So following will be larger as compared to US. US has got a more understanding, more what do you say? They may be having a certain set of rules through which they usually follow scientific things. With India, it's more emotional, more trend wise following. So I think it is India which will be affected.
So when people in USA, what are the rules which they follow because of which they don't get harmed?
USA ideally drinking there, it's not dependent on the social responsibility which they have, but if a certain scientific study will be put up in front of, say, a set of people who are from the west and certain set of people in front of our country usually feels it as an honor to debunk scientific understanding, whereas the west, especially in US, Europe, they have a tendency to use, I can't say it as a general rule, but usually you will see that there will be a more following of, or a more disciplined following of certain scientific things which have been put in front. This has come in front
So
during,
I
of
think
course,
I accept
Corona.
what you said. I think I accept what you said.
Hmm.
But still, let me ask you, what is the scientific rule which they follow in USA because of which they don't get harmed?
Look, I'm not saying that they have any rule. I'm saying
Okay.
if a rule has been put. But of course, again, there is a controversy again I'll be putting in is that during Corona, we saw no maskers more in USA as compared to India. So my same sentence gets debunked here. But in general, when, for example, there was an ophthalmic study, this I'll speak in terms of my knowledge, limited knowledge. In an ophthalmic study, it was shown that uh, compliance to treatment by an ophthalmologist in India, whether educated, uneducated, and compliance to treatment in the West, with US, UK, all the extra out non-Indian countries, there they follow more specifically and clearly doctors' orders, whereas in India, following a
I
particular
heard what
step
you said. I heard what you
is
said.
not
Makes
so
sense. Makes sense.
compliant. Yeah.
Makes sense. Anyone else? What are your views? Why India? Or if someone thinks USA, why USA? Come on, say something, whatever your view is.
I think it's in the USA because the 10% of the pregnant women are consuming alcohol. It will definitely affect their future generations.
The percentage of people drinking there is more in younger generation. Is that what you said?
No, the pregnant woman is consuming.
Uh-huh. So if pregnant women are also consuming, then definitely the problem seems to be more over there, is what you're saying. Okay, I heard
Yes.
it. Anyone
It's a
else?
part of their lifestyle.
Right. So does that harm them more? Does that harm them less? Because
Definitely,
it's a part of
definitely.
lifestyle now.
Yeah, definitely it will harm.
Yes. So the answer
Addiction
is USA. The answer
de-addiction
is,
is more.
yeah, the answer is USA. But often people think that it is India, partly because of beliefs like people over there are educated, people over here are not educated. So when a well-educated psychiatrist like me drinks, will I get harmed? Or I won't get harmed because I know all the consequences of alcohol. So people get the conferences of psychiatrists also, psychiatrists get drunk. Okay. So to think that well-educated doctors or any other members of the society don't get harmed is not true. The other belief is the quality of alcohol is good over there and it is bad over here. So when you drink a bad quality poison, it harms you. And when you drink a good quality poison, that still harms you, right? When you say this is the rich blend of the finest hand-picked grains of France, that doesn't make it nectar. It remains an addictive poison. Just like for pan masala we saw yesterday, कि रजनीगंधा कैसे बनता है? सुबह उठकर 5:30 बजे जंगल में जाके चुनिंदा वनस्पतियों से बनता है रजनीगंधा. Now this doesn't make rajnigandha a medicine. It remains a poison. So the industry tries various ways to create an illusion of safety and quality. Okay? Unche log, unchi pasand, kesar yukta vimal, all are attempts to make you believe that they are safe quality products. Filtered cigarettes. Research says that filtered cigarettes are as harmful to smoke as other cigarettes. But these are attempts by the industry to create a illusion of quality. Bidis are sold in USA as organic cigarettes. Okay. So for the factors which Veena said, that because the socioeconomic strata is lower over here, therefore, over there, if a husband is drinking alcohol and beating the wife, she will divorce and go away. In India, शायद वो पति परमेश्वर की सेवा फिर भी करती रहेगी. So the impact of alcohol, the severity of impact is more over here in poorer families or because of cultural context. But if you look at how many families, what is the proportion of families which get harmed by alcohol? That is definitely more in the Western world. Okay. And for the simple reason which Miss Manjula said, it's a part of their lifestyle. So people believe in France, because they teach their youngsters how to drink in control, people drink in control. It's a part of their lifestyle. How true is that? In the past, surveys published by the World Health Organization say that in France, when men were asked in the last 1 month, did you have a binge or not? then 48% men in France reported that they had a binge in the last 1 month. Do we really believe that the country with 48% men binging, that is the role model for us on how to solve the alcohol problem? So let's look at the data. Okay. Give me a moment. Mhm. Okay. I'm not able to see the full screen, but are you guys able to see the full screen? No.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, full screen means is the photos of people coming in the way?
No, no, no. But your
it's not
that
full screen.
other slides are coming.
Yes. But that thing okay. Okay. Forget it. I think it's convenient to see what is being sent. So let's continue. So you see that in India, the prevalence of alcohol dependence and abuse in men is 9.1%. In USA, it is 17.6%. In UK, it is 13%. And in France, it is 11%. Okay. So because in India, it is socially not acceptable to drink, at least till 10-20 years back, it was not socially very acceptable to drink. Therefore, lot of people just don't touch alcohol. And therefore, in a country where only about 60% men touch alcohol, even if 15 or 20% of them get dependent, that comes to 9.1%. But in a country like USA, UK, or France, where 90% take alcohol, there, even if 10 to 15% get dependent, the number will come somewhere between 17 to 13 to 11. So in spite of our lower socioeconomic strata and lesser education, India was protected till now because of our culture of abstinence. And that culture of abstinence is getting rapidly destroyed for various forces, including marketing. This 9.1 was around 5% just 10 years back. And that's the rapidity with which the problem of alcohol is increasing in developing countries, because the alcohol industry is focusing on developing markets. As I said, prevalence of heavy episodic drinking in the past 30 days is 41% in USA, 46% in UK, 48% in France. Authorities in France and Scotland are trying hard to decrease the damage because of alcohol in those countries. But it has established itself as a way of lifestyle, and it is very difficult to change it. It's a very critical time in our cultural history, wherein if we don't act now, the way in which things are going, very soon the numbers in the developed countries, similar numbers will be in India. And with our lower socioeconomic strata and lesser education, the problem is just going to be worse. So therefore, because I believe it's a critical time in our history, therefore I am giving it my time. And I'm happy that you guys also feel for the cause. If together a lot of us work on this issue, I'm sure we can change the trends. To further make my point, if you see in India, the problem in men is 9.1%, in women it is just 0.5%. And across the world, the problem in men is more compared to the problem in women. And that's because men will be men. The industry also spends a lot to make men believe that for men to drink is a perfectly normal thing, right? It is to be men. So men can drink, they get trapped. Women shouldn't be drinking, they don't drink, they don't get trapped, right? So in other words, without spending a single penny, the problem of alcohol addiction in women is so much more less compared to men, simply because it is not socially acceptable to drink in them. So what I propose, if we really want to make a big impact, we have to work on changing the social norms about drinking. A society in which all the respectable members drink, that society is doomed to having a big alcohol problem, right? Whereas a society in which respected members of the society recommend to the younger generation, this is not a smart thing to do, not to be done, that society is going to be saved from any issue. You take from dowry to crackers to whatever medical or cultural issue you feel. So female feticide, it had become so common. Now, because a lot of people started speaking on it, relatively, it has started decreasing. So whatever issue people speak on, people talk on, to that extent, it will get changed. And so far as rich members of the society continue to take dowry, it is difficult for, I mean, more than rich, respectable members of the society, if they also give dowry and take dowry, then that problem is not going to get solved. Same holds true for alcohol. So, how do we strengthen our culture of abstinence? Because we lose it permanently. So we need to empower youngsters with adequate awareness before the age of first contact. Like all of you have experienced, once they start taking it, they keep giving silly arguments as to why it is okay to take that. And no matter what we do, they don't just hear it. It's because the first time they will take it, they're not going to get addicted. And the next day they will be fine, they'll be working. And so they're like, no, I can drink in control. Now, because he has taken it one day and has not got intoxicated or anything, he believes this is a proof that I can drink in control. So now, whatever arguments you give are not valid. Then gradually he will start drinking every once in a month. And then he'll be still, मैं तो once in a month पीता हूँ. Then he will start drinking every weekends, then every day night. And then also he will say, I'm not an addict. I'm working well throughout the day. Only in the night I'm enjoying. What is the use of working hard if you can't enjoy in life even a bit? So the process of addiction is so gradual. And that they keep defending that, no, I'm not addicted. I'm not addicted. Till things become so bad that they're very bad. And then they are forced to acknowledge, and as all of you know, even when they are addicted to the extent of losing their jobs, many people, though they understand they're addicted, will keep telling the people, I'm not addicted, it's because of this, because of that, or I'm in control and things like that. So denial, of course, is a hallmark of this addiction. And therefore, the best way to change norms is to focus on people before they touch the first smoke or the first alcohol. So awareness talks in schools and community at large would be very nice. We can be discussing with children in our family, in our neighborhood, on our campus. If you are a teacher, you can be discussing with students in your school. If you are a doctor, you can be discussing with patients who come to you, right? So whomever we come in contact with, can we take a stand on this issue? Okay. We can use social media also for spreading awareness. Last year, WHO, CIRO, Southeast Asia Regional Office, that did a campaign or a social media campaign on alcohol. It was in Hindi. It was kept in Hindi so that the poor socioeconomic strata can also be reached. So the idea was that the pro-alcohol campaign is done through a very engaging mediums of short films and celebrities marketing for it and music concerts, whereas the anti-alcohol propaganda is relatively bland. So can we make that also more interesting? So a radio celebrity called Nilesh Mishra, so in his voice, 15 audio stories were made, which in a subtle way give the message about the truth of alcohol. And 10 videos were made. 5 videos are on people who used to be addicted to alcohol, but now they have quit. 4 are on that. 1 is on psychiatrist explaining what is the treatment of alcohol addiction and giving hope. And other 5 are on various topics related to alcohol, including 1 is on youngsters who enjoy life without drinking alcohol and giving a voice to their opinion. And there are 10 memes also. So this is an This is the photo of Nilesh Mishra, and these are example of some of the memes of the campaign. So memes are very popular among youngsters nowadays. So these resources are also there. So one of the ways of spreading awareness can be you can log on to this website and whatever resources you like. Every once in 2 weeks, once in a month, you can share these resources in your contacts. And people who regard you to be a sensible person, youngsters who think that this auntie, this uncle, or this brother, this sister is sensible, they are gonna get a message that if he or she is sending these messages, that means according to her, according to him, taking alcohol is not a sensible way of living, right? So also we have a handle, our organization's handles are Powerful Gyan. It's on Insta, Facebook, YouTube. We also keep trying to make posters on alcohol, tobacco, and various other health issues so that the rich evidence which is lying waste in medical journals can be taken to the common man in a simple language. And besides this, there are so many good websites on the internet. So example would be alcoholthinkagain.com.au. It's an Australian website which I found to have very good content. So on the internet, you will find such good resources, but the problem is that they are not gonna market it. And therefore, what you will spontaneously get on the internet is what is paid for by the industry. The healthy content you will have to actively search for, and people like you and me would have to market it in our circles. So point I want to make is, okay, with social media coming in so initially if you had to advertise your view, then you are dependent on paying a very high amount to TV channels, and that's the only way to spread your word. But with social media, each one of us now has the power to spread what we believe in. So let's use that power. But the problem is we don't want to publicly take a stand on the issue. People who drink and smoke will forward each silly message which has no evidence. So messages like alcohol is good for the brain, alcohol is good for this, alcohol good for that, alcohol is good for vitamins and this, that will be heavily spread on the internet. Especially by those who drink, they get a very good excuse to justify their drinks, their use to people. But people who don't believe in doing these things, who believe it is harmful, they choose to remain silent on this. The issue is, why should we? It's their freedom. Of course, it's that freedom, but is it not your right and responsibility to at least recommend what is right or wrong? Recommending to youngsters in your family that you should regularly exercise, is that impinging on their right? And aren't you responsible of negligence if you don't recommend to your youngsters in family, sleep on time, exercise regularly, eat healthy? You will be negligent as a parent or an adult if you don't do this. And similarly, you are a negligent and irresponsible member of the society, if I may say. If you are not recommending to youngsters in your surroundings, don't take drugs, don't take alcohol, don't take tobacco. We need not force, but can we at least recommend, right? So that's what I believe in. So I take the opportunity to recommend, and I would like to share with you one experience I had. So I had gone out with my brother and his friends. And so one of the criteria I had said is, okay, they were going to drink in that hotel. So I said, I will come only if you give me 10 minutes to give my perspective on it. And they said, okay, 10 minutes we will hear, but we should be allowed to do what we want. I said, yeah, fine. So then I took the opportunity to explain in 10 minutes and answer their doubts. And one of the feedbacks one of the guys gave me was, okay, for the first time, someone has talked on this topic to me in a non-condescending way. Condescending means criticizing and showing the person down for drinking. And in respect of that, I promise you that today I'm drinking, but after a month, for 1 month, I will stop or this or that. So the point I'm making is, if you believe that if you talk on this topic, people will hate you or people will, etc., etc. So I want to reassure you that if you condemn them, if you ridicule them, then they will feel offended. But if you talk in a respectful way, they may or may not stop, but they will definitely not hate you. They will definitely not disrespect you. They may actually respect you more. Because when you care to talk to someone, you are actually showing them that you, I mean, when you talk about this issue, you're actually showing that you care for them, right? And they respect you for that. Another example I give is a lot of my batchmates from MBBS, they too continue to drink. But some of them have told me, कि यार तेरे बार-बार messages पढ़-पढ़ के मैंने दारू बंद कर दिया है. So it does matter, right? And of course, it would matter more if you talk to youngsters before they have touched it. So we can do it through awareness talks, we can do it through social media, we can do it through posters. So if you have a clinic, if you have a school, you can just put up some posters, which, and so the posters people will in the waiting room keep seeing on the school, every day they look at it. So like the industry does campaigns wherein the advertise keep coming daily, day after day, day after day, day after day. Our awareness talk is just once a year. So one way to make our message long lasting is if we give them a pamphlet which summarizes the key messages of what we said, then they have something to take home and keep revising. Or we can, if WhatsApp groups are there nowadays, we can make use and just send a soft copy of our PPT. So then they can keep revising. And the other way can be to leave behind a poster so that people can revise the key messages of the thing, right? So we have to think, how do we make the impact long lasting? The other way of making a longer lasting impact is, like we say, there are two ways of learning. One is active, one is passive. So currently what is happening is I am saying, you guys are hearing. Now this way is good to get new data, but this is not a good way if we are expecting long-term change. You guys are motivated, it's a different thing. But if you guys were an audience who were considering, acha kya karu, then this is not the best way. It has to be if you are actively engaging in it. If there is some discussion wherein you are also thinking actively and voicing your opinion. If you are preparing on this topic and presenting to someone, then because you have to convince someone, your mind has to process it well. And that active processing results in long-term attitudinal change. So some ways of doing this can be giving some homework tasks or competitions. Example, what I usually do is after my talk, I will tell the students that a lot of what you heard today, did you know? And if not, then would you share the responsibility of passing it on to at least 5 people? So in the coming week, will you discuss whatever you liked in the presentation with just 5 people? Now, if those of whom they do the homework seriously, they are going to process it at least 5 times. And to convince someone, they are going to really get convinced themselves first. The other things we can suggest the schools are to hold competitions like poster competition, essay competition, debate competition, etc. How would that help? So once you have given them all the information, now they have the information. And now if they have to make slogans on the issue, they have to write an essay on the issue, they are going to actively process all that data which you have given them. So holding competitions once a year, once in 6 months on the topic is a good idea to make people actively process it. Similarly, if teachers start asking questions on this topic in the exam once in a year, then it will enter the list of important topics. And then youngsters will read on it more than what you and I can educate. So these are some of the suggestions we can give to the school to have a longer lasting impact. Similarly, one of the ways is what I told you. Okay, just there are such good resources on the internet. One of them is poisonswelove.org पे जो resources है, but उसके अलावा भी there are so many good resources. So if we tell the teachers, I mean, there are school managements which seriously want to work on this issue. So then we have to convince them, okay, can we also figure out less expensive or ways which don't cost anything? So supposingly every 2 weeks, one video, one audio story, one meme, or one something from the internet which is very effective on the topic. If every 2 weeks the school sends it on their WhatsApp groups to students, then over a period of 1, 2, 3 years, imagine the systematic programming which will happen in the right direction in terms of, if someone may say that the industry programs what it wants, we program what we want. So first of all, there is nothing wrong in it. So anyways, if you don't program your children, the industry interests of various, not only alcohol, tobacco, various interests like the fast food industry or whatever industry, clothes industry, they are anyways gonna program your children in the direction they want. So might as well we also take the opportunity to let them know what we think is healthy. There is nothing wrong in recommending. There is nothing wrong in explaining. And secondly, what we would be telling would be more based in truth rather than what they are programming. For example, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, in his film, I saw him tell his friend that तूने फिर से दारू पिया है, तू फिर से दारू पिएगा तो मैं तेरे से बात नहीं करेगा. So in real life, he believes alcohol is very harmful to be taken, but yet he is happy to do an advertisement that the secret of my captaincy is McDowell's #1. This is the starkest example of how misleading the advertisement campaigns are. So they are doing misleading propaganda. At least let's do the right propaganda. But if we are not willing to do it sincerely, and then we say that the youngsters have gone astray, then we are responsible for that. Anyways, coming back to the point, that people who are willing, we have to tell them that there is a very serious propaganda going and we need to be equally impactful. And the answer can be, but we have so many things to work on. So yes, does it take any money or time to keep forwarding one message every 2 weeks? It's going to take less than 30 seconds. So you can have a list of good resources and you can keep that library and you can just send and you can make things easier for them. They don't have to think anything. Every 2 weeks, I will send it, and whenever you receive, you just have to forward it. So that way, we can do a sustained campaign, and that way, the programming can change, the belief systems and attitudes can change. Okay, so this is an example of the quality of pics or posts on the site alcoholthinkagain.com.au. Now, how do we deal with peer pressure? When you are talking to youngsters and explaining them, okay, don't touch the drinks, don't do this, but all their friends are telling them, Pio, that's the smartest thing to do. Hey, you're not cool, you're not this, you're not that, mard nahi hai kya? Then it is, for most people, very difficult or maybe even impossible to not drink, because man is a social animal. And if my social environment is pro-alcohol, then it is very difficult to not go there. So how do you deal with peer pressure is something very important which we have to tell youngsters. So what are some of the things which can be said? The first thing is we have to explain them, why do people force? Why do friends force a person who is not drinking? First, so yeah, why? If I am drinking alcohol or if I am smoking and none of my friends are smoking or drinking, then I would be regarded as a bad guy, as the black sheep. But if I am drinking and most of my friends are drinking, then all of us have become cool and smart and trendy. So if others are not drinking, every time I look at them, I'm getting a message that I'm doing something wrong. But if others also start doing, then I no longer am getting a feedback that there's anything wrong and I can enjoy my drink without worry. And that is why people who drink and smoke go to long extents. I had a friend who married a social worker against parental wish. So after her friends had tried all sorts of arguments, the last argument was, "तूने तेरे parents का नहीं सुना, हमारा क्या सुनेगी?" Criticizing her for that. That is the level of silliness to which they stoop in order to convince their friends to drink. Not because they are talking of something very nice, because they have a sense of guilt which they want to overcome. Giving this understanding to youngsters can help them feel confident that just because they are confidently making fun of me doesn't mean they are right and I am wrong. They are the ones who are doing the wrong things and are trying to force me just because they want to decrease their guilt. This clarity can help to say no. Second, the no should be bold, looking in the eyes. Okay, alcohol, and if they become shy and say, no, mummy will hate, nahi chahiye na, to fir wo log gaye. But if they look in the eyes and say a bold no, okay, alcohol, I don't do things like that. Don't ask me again. Or I have seen some of my family members or neighbors or many people in the community get ruined by it. I am never going to become the cause of sorrow for my family. I have taken a vow that I will never touch this in my life. मर्द नहीं है क्या? मर्द हूं और मर्द रहना चाहता हूं, इसीलिए नहीं ले रहा. तेरे को भी मर्द रहना है, तू भी बंद कर दे. Bottom line, it has to be a confident no. And one way which would help them to say it confidently is if they have prepared their answer and kept. When friends are forcing in a party, it is very nervous moment. But if they've already thought and kept, okay, when friends will force, what I'm going to say? Then they will be able to say it confidently. So we have to be proud of the choice. We have to say it boldly. We have to say, keep the answer prepared. Fourth point is scratch record technique, which means often the arguments are silly. तू scientific नहीं है क्या? अगर तूने एक भी बार नहीं लिया तो how can you say कि it is not good? You are not open-minded enough. You should be open to trying out everything in life at least once, etc., etc. Silly arguments. And not every argument can be given in a logical way. And even if we give a logical answer, if the other person chooses to not accept that logical answer, and if he says, "Ha, कुछ भी बोल रहा है," then that person who is trying to say no can feel as if he's not able to convince and he's not being proven right. So it's important to tell him that the onus of convincing is not on him, to them. He doesn't have to convince them that drinking is stupid according to me or not healthy according to me and I don't want to drink. They have to convince him that this is what he should be doing. And so far as he is not convinced, he is not convinced. He has a right to refuse. He doesn't have a need or necessity to convince them. Okay, especially because they're blocked. No matter how sensible arguments he gives, they're not going to get convinced. And therefore, the way to do it is to just choose your main sentence and keep repeating it. Scratch record means in the previous era, when the gramophones were there, and those round and round audio records would go. So in that, if it gets scratched at a particular place, then the same thing would keep getting repeated again and again. So similarly, if the thing is, ke, according to me, this is a stupid thing to do, I don't want to do it. Or if it can be, ke, according to me, it's an addictive substance and it's not about my willpower, I don't want to do it. Or simply a sentence, I have decided I will never touch it, whatever. So whatever it is which they have said. Now, supposingly they keep forcing, they have to just keep repeating that same sentence. Are you not, don't you believe in your willpower? I have decided I'm never going to touch it. You are not a good friend. You are not coming with us. You're not a sport. I have decided never to touch it. You are not scientific. I have decided I'm never going to touch it. So whatever one sentence they have decided, like a scratch record, they can keep repeating it confidently, not caring whether they accept it or not. And lastly, if they still keep forcing once, twice, thrice, 4 times, then they must leave that place and go. Because man is a social animal and all of us have a need to keep others around us happy. So if people are forcing repeatedly, we give in after some time. So if they are not respecting your right, then they are not the right kind of people to hang out with. Just leave their company and go somewhere else in the party. And if the whole party is like that, just leave the party. You may not break the friendship. When they are not partying, those times you can mingle with them. But even if they choose to abandon you or not keep friendship with you because you didn't drink, then that may be a very nice thing to happen in your life. Because if those people are so keen on making you go the wrong way, then are they really your friends? Do they really have your best intention in their mind? And if such people drop out of your life, what is the harm? To give an example, one of my friends, when his third girlfriend left him, he was very distraught. And then he was in so much sadness that he went to one of his friends who used to drink and told him, "Yaar, aaj to ek pilai de." And that friend asked him, "Aaj tak kabhi piya hai kya?" And he said, "No." And he said, "To rehne de yaar, fas jayega." Now, this is what a true friend is. Who cares for what is going to happen to you? And not someone who is intent on making you do a wrong thing. So people who are intent on spoiling your life, if they drop out from your life, it's very nice thing. So One of the things, if people say, but then I won't have friends, so you can tell them that India is an overpopulated country. We have a shortage of everything other than people. So if you keep your life healthy and well, you will find much better friends in life. But if you, for this friend circle, ruin your life, then you're going to have a bad time. And once your life gets ruined, these very friends who made you drink also, if they are not addicted, they will put their hands up and say, we didn't ask you to drink more. We just talk of drinking in control, right? So one of the common arguments people give is, to enjoy nahi karne ka kya? So answer can be, of course, enjoy karne ka. But we can also dance without drinking and remember all those good memories throughout life. मैं दारू को ना बोल रहा हूँ, मैं फ्रेंडशिप को ना नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. हम लोग ट्रैक पे जाके एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, हम लोग नींबू पानी पी सकते हैं, हम लोग गेम्स खेल सकते हैं, हम लोग फुटबॉल खेल सकते हैं, हम लोग बुक क्लब शुरू कर सकते हैं, हम लोग डांस कर सकते हैं, हम लोग कुछ भी कर सकते हैं, राइट? So you can always suggest alternative ways of enjoy, right? As I said, we don't need to fear losing friends. And then someone saying, nahi, but mere majority friends drink karte hain. So then, of course, the answer is, if all your friends or most of your friends drink and smoke, then of course, today or tomorrow, you will also do it. So one of the best ways to be not doing it is to have a healthy peer group. Cultivate at least few friends who know how to enjoy life without drinking and smoking, and then you won't find your life to be boring. But if most of your friends are those who drink and smoke, and for them, of course, the best way to enjoy will be to drink and smoke, then you will feel left out each time. So choosing your friend circle well. As we say, a man is known by the company he keeps. So if you choose to keep company of people who drink and smoke, then of course, very high probability you will also very soon land up there. To give an example, one patient of cannabis-induced psychosis whom I had, for 2-3 years, he didn't touch cannabis in his hostel. Now, a person who doesn't touch for 2-3 years is very clear that this is wrong, right? But because in his room, a lot of people used to smoke cannabis, his room partners as well as the friends who would come, partly because of the passive smoking, partly because of the passive smoking, he may have got addicted to it, or because of the company, that after 2.5-3 years, he also started smoking cannabis. And then he started loving it. He started feeling that his guitar flows more melodiously when he's under cannabis intoxication. So he continued during his engineering, and then after engineering on his job, money came and he started drinking, taking more cannabis. And after 1 or 2 years of job, he developed cannabis-induced psychosis, and he had to quit the job, and he had to spend almost a year in treatment before he could become better. And then he had to change his profession to just stay away from that company. Now, 2 important insights I got in this. A person like him who didn't touch it for 2 years had a very clear conviction that though all my friends are taking it, I won't take it. But he also started taking after 2 years. And therefore, it's not important to not take it alone. It's important to stay away and have a healthy peer group. And there are enough, okay? No matter how common it is. Each school, each college will have at least 20 and usually 50% people, or at least 20% people who don't drink or smoke. There is nothing stopping you from becoming friends with them rather than wanting to be friends with people who drink and smoke if you don't want that lifestyle. And second conclusion, in his hostel, he said there was a neighboring hostel in the same campus wherein seniors took brown sugar as well as cannabis. And in his hostel, seniors took only cannabis, and they told him brown sugar is bad. And therefore, he never took brown sugar. I was just thinking it was his luck that he was in this hostel and not in that. Because if he were in that hostel, then he would have taken brown sugar also. And if he was hypothetically in a third hostel, where seniors didn't took brown sugar nor cannabis and advocated that one shouldn't take cannabis also, then he would have been saved. And today he wouldn't have cannabis-induced psychosis. So this is what I'm saying. Okay, all of us have a responsibility to stand and publicly speak for what we believe in. We need not give lectures, but at least one-to-one recommendations can be given. So I'll give you another recent example. So a person who, because of cannabis, his education got ruined and was finding difficulty at working, etc. So I asked him, how did you start cannabis? And he said, nahi, college mein sab seniors ne bola, to humne bhi liya. So I said, if your education got ruined by cannabis, there must be some senior batch also who may have started suffering in academics because of cannabis. So didn't some of your seniors tell you that हमारे बैच में ऐसा हुआ है, तुम शुरू मत करना? So he said, मत लेने को कौन बोलता है, सिर्फ लेने को ही तो लोग बोलते हैं. So that's the problem. People who take these things to reduce their guilt or for various reasons strongly advocate others to take it. But people who don't take it don't speak up. And therefore they don't get counted. Their views don't get counted. So I believe if all of us speak up, then collectively we can shape a positive peer pressure around us. Similarly, when we give an awareness talk in a class, the whole class has heard to us. And if we are effective in our delivery, then there'll be a positive peer pressure on the campus, right? So through awareness talks, it can happen. Through social media, it can happen. And by people taking a stand and recommending, it can happen. What are some of the things we can say which I have found to be effective till today? Then one, being very respectful, of course. So when you talk in a irritating way, कि अक्कल नहीं है क्या? Then the answer will be खुद के पैसे की पीता हूँ, तेरे पैसे की नहीं पीता, चुप बैठ. But if you're respectful, कि अंकल इसको तो कैंसर होता है ना, क्यों लेते हो? So then usually the answer will be बेटा फंस गया हूँ, क्या करूँ, लेना पड़ता है. Okay. So 2-3 things which I have found to be effective are saying के देखो मैं डॉक्टर हूँ और मैंने बहुत सारे लोगों को कैंसर होते हुए देखा है, तो इसीलिए ना मेरे से रहा नहीं जाता. अगर मैं किसी को तंबाकू लेते हुए देखता हूँ तो मैं बोल देता हूँ कि अपने वहाँ ना जो टाटा मेमोरियल हॉस्पिटल है ना, उसमें जितने कैंसर के पेशेंट आते हैं उसमें से आधे पेशेंट ओरल कैंसर के होते हैं. मत लो ना प्लीज, कोशिश करो, जमेगा. सो दिस इज समथिंग ब्रीफली इन 1 minute आई से. यू कैन हैव योर ओन पिच प्रिपेयर्ड कि जब भी मैं किसी को दारू पीते हुए देखूंगा तो मैं क्या बोलूंगा, किसी को तंबाकू खाते हुए देखा मैं क्या बोलूंगा. इट कैन बी अ वेरी रिस्पेक्टफुल पिच and whatever you believe is socially acceptable. So one of the things I tell to my friends is that there is solid evidence that people who take alcohol or tobacco die approximately 10 years earlier than required. Now you may not care if you die early, but if you die early and your wife becomes a widow 10 years earlier than required, I'm sure she will mind it a lot. If your children have to lose your support 10 years earlier than required, I'm sure they will mind it a lot. And I'm sure you also don't want that to happen, that they have to spend a lot of years without your support and company. So please, for their welfare, for their interest, please stop it. Please don't take it. So that way I appeal. Am I very successful often? My answer is no. A lot of my cousins continue to drink. I won't be successful always. But I can tell you of at least 10-20 people who have actually given me a feedback in person that, okay, aaj se ban. Okay. So not all will be convinced, but 2 things. First, a good proportion will be convinced. Second, the more you go before they have touched the substance, higher the probability that they will decide never to take it. And third, 1-1-1 won't happen. But when a lot of us are doing it, a lot of that, and when the critical mass is reached, and when the trend becomes it is stupid to drink, then collectively our efforts would make it very easy. So currently when most friends are drinking, it takes effort to not drink. But when most people will start again not drinking, that can become easy. So we have to aim for that, according to me. And then joining some sports group, music group, spiritual group, cultural group, or an NGO of your choice can also be a very practical way of having a healthy peer group for you, your family. So then their family and your family becomes friends, and then your children will have their friends as their peers. And that becomes a practical way of ensuring that your family, everyone in your family has a healthy peer group who know how to enjoy life without drinking and smoke. Then one important point to discuss is denormalizing the use of these addictions. So when something becomes very common, it starts feeling that it is normal. Okay. So corruption common है, चलता है, चलो करो यार, दे के खत्म करो, right? So something is very common, we accept it as normal. It's nice to discuss with your audience that female feticide is common in our country. Should we start accepting it as normal? Dowry is common in our country. Should we start accepting it as normal? Or do we also have to look at, is this particular thing helpful to the society or harmful to the society? If it is common and helpful to the society, let's promote it as our culture's beauty. But if something is common and harmful, should we not get together and aggressively work on it and uproot it from the society as soon as possible? So if alcohol and tobacco are helping a society or a culture, please continue with full funfair. But if it is harmful, then should we not get together and explore how do we remove it? Second is, a lot of people take it. Yes, a lot of people take it, but even as of today, more than half the world does not touch alcohol or tobacco. I mean, I'm talking of population-wise, half the world's population even today doesn't touch alcohol or tobacco. Even doctors drink, celebrities drink, successful people drink, yes, and many of them get harmed also. So you can give examples of people like Sanjay Dutt or Salman Khan or Javed Akhtar has publicly said, I have a regret that I believe that my 10 years were completely wasted in drinking. And if that had not happened, I would have been more successful in life. Okay. So, like I said, this comedian, Kapil Sharma, that is someone whom everyone knows. So whatever famous examples you know, Michael Jackson, regarded the king of pop, and he had such a promising life, but the life was truncated because of drug addiction. So you can give examples of successful people who had to suffer a lot. So that's not normal. And one funny example I give is a tobacco farm doesn't need to be fenced. तंबाकू की खेती को फेंसिंग नहीं लगता, तंबाकूच्या शेताला कुंपण लागत नाही. क्यों? क्योंकि गधों और डुक्करों को भी समझता है कि ये खाने की चीज नहीं है, वो नहीं खाते. Right? So it is not normal to take it. So what do we do? Therefore, as responsible citizens, we recommend people to stay away from addictive substances. We lead by our example, of course, especially if you believe a lot of people regard you to be a role model and a respectable member of the society. And if you wish that this thing shouldn't be happening in the society, then you have a moral responsibility to not take it. We need to keep it away from our get-togethers and celebrations, because otherwise we are normalizing it in a big way. I'll give you an example. In Sri Lanka, there is an organization called as Addict Sri Lanka, Alcohol and Drug Information Center Sri Lanka. So that organization organizes parties for young people, wherein youngsters from that community can just come and have a good enjoy. They arrange party games for them, they arrange dance, music, food, and they have a good time. And these parties are just to give a taste to those youngsters. Okay, it is possible to enjoy without getting drunk. So one of their volunteers who had attended such parties, when her daughter achieved menarche, so in her village, there was a trend. Okay, when menarche happens, one has to give a party to the village. And in that party, the most important thing is drinking. So when her daughter attained menarche, she decided no drinks in the party. So the brother and father were like, gone mad or what? People will criticize, people won't come, this, that. She spent some time explaining them why it's not a smart thing to do. Finally, they had a party without drinking, and she arranged it well, and people had a gala time, they enjoyed it. And next day, the whole village was talking about the party, that there was no alcohol, there was no misbehavior, there was such fun, and all the money which could have been put in alcohol was put in her saving account, or I mean fixed deposit or whatever. So 50,000 was put in her account. So they were like, okay, if we do this way, we have a good time, and 50,000 is put in the daughter's account. So ever since, the trend has changed in that village. And now menarche parties, no alcohol, money is saved, is put in the account, and people enjoy still without alcohol. So it is definitely possible to enjoy without alcohol, and we can take the initiative and organize alcohol-free parties as a way of demonstrating to our peer group and family circles that it is possible to enjoy thoroughly even without drinking, right? Another thing while recommending or educating, we have to keep in mind is to caution youngsters about not falling in the trap of these celebrities and the industry. So we have to let them know that they are fooling them. Like I told you, we can expose that in real life, Dhoni believes this, but in advertisement, he's saying this. In real life, in one of the times when the Indian cricket team was doing bad, I had heard him issue a statement that if you have an alcohol party every other night, how can the cricket team win? So that's what the reality of his performance in alcohol is. But yet he's doing that. So it's important to tell youngsters that advertisements, be it of alcohol or tobacco or any other thing, is an exaggeration and not true, and not to believe it fully. So is Shah Rukh Khan a great actor? He is. Is Ajay Devgan a great actor? He is. Is Dhoni a great cricketer? He is. But are these people responsible citizens? In spite of having so much money, they want to take some more money and fool their own fans just for money. Are they worthy of your respect as a role model in life? Then in my opinion, I'm very confident, definitely no. These are antisocial elements, and if you make them your role model, your life will get destroyed. They are fooling you. Don't get cheated. No one succeeds in life because of tobacco or alcohol. That can only destroy your life. That can only decrease your performance. There might be successful people who take it, but if they were not taking it, they would have been still more successful. Addictive substances definitely don't lead to success for anyone. Then, one of the ways, like I said, to promote a culture of abstinence, along with saying youngsters what not to do, we also have to tell them what to do, right? So an example is in India, there is a village wherein alcohol problem was very common. Then one person taught a lot of members of that village to play chess. And now that whole village, from the youngsters to the oldest people, know how to play chess. They keep playing chess every day. And now the alcohol problem has gone away from that village, and all of them are aiming to participate in chess competitions at the international level. So that can happen. Similarly, Iceland is a country where the alcohol problem was very, very high. And so there was a lot of thought being put into what can be done. So some of the things they did were they discussed with parents how to spend more time with children, how to have more quality family time, so that there is bonding as well as there is healthy recreation at home. Secondly, they set up youth stadiums with multiple facilities of various forms of recreation, and they gave options to youngsters which form of recreation you want. Third, the parents started patrolling the streets, and youngsters were not allowed on the streets after 9 p.m. Fourth, they did some research, and fifth, they did a lot of funding. But because of all these things, but the most important part being providing alternative ways of recreation, the problem in Iceland decreased dramatically. And that model was so successful that it is called the Iceland model now, and many European countries are following and trying to implement it. Their website is called as planetyouth.org. Okay. Fine. Let us pause there, and I will just talk of few tips which I believe have helped me in my presentations. One is giving a lot of examples help. So when I give example of how a child, yesterday I may have given example of that girl I had met in that municipal school about how it was impacting her. Compared to any other theory, that is gonna convince you. An example of how accident changed life for a family, that is gonna convince you, right? So whatever examples you have heard or seen yourself, try to give examples that convey the impact like nothing else. Second, some of the data. Some people believe that percentages and all that people don't understand. Let's not think that only we are the smartest people on earth. Of course, they may not understand to the a person who has done PhD in statistics will understand it much more, its implications compared to someone who is a 12th student. But a 12th student will also understand something. For example, why did I decide to start working on tobacco initially and then on alcohol? That's because I read this data. 20% of male premature deaths are because of tobacco. I simply couldn't get it out of my head. How come 20% of male premature deaths are because of tobacco? And we simply don't understand how bad it is. If I had not heard this data, probably I would have a lot of tobacco deaths happen. It wouldn't have really conveyed to me. So when we say 18% of murders, 18% of suicides are because of tobacco. I mean, sorry, alcohol. That does convey something. Now, there is no use of throwing a huge bombardment of statistics. So you may not quote all the statistics I told. Whichever you feel comfortable with, whichever you feel effective, choose some of them. But definitely say some statistics which will convey to them the magnitude of the problem. Right? So I think that can help. Anand Nadkarni sir uses a term called as edutainment. So Tare Zameen Pe film came and everyone became aware of what is dyslexia. So if there is some entertainment, people will get hooked on, they will listen, they will get engaged. If there is no entertainment, then they will lose attention. So try to have some jokes in between. I try to do some acting in between. Some people can have jingles or songs in between. You can do some energizers in between, but try to make it entertaining. If you want the students to be hooked on and be attentive, then it is our responsibility to add some elements of fun and entertainment in it. Okay. Another thought would be asking questions and making them think. So like I started the presentation with how does alcohol kill and letting people think and then answering it. Or towards the end, I asked, okay, which countries harm more? So in between, I keep asking questions. So that also brings them active. You can also ask one-on-one question. I mean, you see, depending on time, what is more suitable for you. Of course, like nowadays, the life skills approach of discussions and activities and all that, if you have more time, if the school or college you are working in it close to you and you have assessed multiple times, then you have more time. So of course, then you can split the key messages and then you can do various activities or role plays, and the more you do that, the more it would be active engagement, and that can also help. And in my opinion, one of the most important key messages is to explain youngsters what is addiction and why the first drink should not be taken, and why even if they want to drink responsibly and they're well educated, still why they can get trapped. Answering this one thing should be an important part of it. Explaining how to deal with peer pressure should be an important part of it. So it's also nice to just jot down on a paper what are the key messages you want to make sure that you deliver by the end of it. And so 5 minutes before you end, just glance through it and see if any of your key messages has been missed or not been adequately discussed. And if you feel anything is there, then you just discuss that well. Okay. Now, considering a lot of you are people who actively, I know a lot of you are already working on it, on the issue. Peer pressure, like so many of you said, is a very important reason why people start. Any ideas you have on how can people deal with peer pressure? Let's have 3 minutes on that. Anyone would like to share? Please go ahead. What are your thoughts on how do you shape the peer pressure around you? Or how did you deal with the peer pressure which you were getting? I request you to share for the benefit of others.
Sir, actually, my daughter was studying architecture, and the entire class, I think about 80 of them were there. So 78 of them were into drugs and boyfriend, friends for benefit, actually. And only 2 child was out of it, and they were isolated. In fact, I tried to ask them to also get involved. And they had a study tour, which was abroad in Netherlands. And there it is easily available also. So, in fact, my daughter asked me that, can I at least try one? You know? So I told poison is poison. So I would not want you to do that. And that was how I could even. And my daughter was isolated, but she completed her architecture. We had a lot of challenges, but we as a family stood by her and we
Wow.
helped her, because even in the college, group activity will be there. So she would not be considered at all. She would be left out. And study tours were a nightmare, because literally she was thrown out of the room, because they had their own fun, so they couldn't have her with them.
So if
So
I
it
can
was,
summarize what Manjula ma'am said,
we have to be strict with our child.
more than strict, we have to explain them. Because while she is on a study tour, your strictness doesn't matter. You are not going to come to know what she is doing or not doing. But if you would have explained her well, why not, then her conviction would have been there on the topic. And then when no matter, like happened in her case, out of 80, 78 were doing it, but still she had the conviction, I won't. So what you're saying is very true. Centers of higher education have become places where youngsters learn how to smoke or do drugs. And unless parents discuss this issue seriously with their children, they will start. So yes, for your children, if you are asking what is the best way to make sure they won't drink, the most common reason a person doesn't take is, in my family, it is not allowed. My father mother doesn't take it. They have told me it's bad. So discussing with youngsters in your family, or for that matter in your community, or like what I said, if people like you who are regarded as smart by people around you, if you take a stand, then that is going to give the conviction to that youngster to say no to the strong peer pressure.
Yeah, so I think teaching life skills to children helps.
Yes.
So for example, those who have good communication, those who have a positive self-regard and self-image, those who have hope and confidence, they are able to resist the peer pressure much better than the others.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing. I missed that point that there is evidence that life skills, just saying what not to do is not enough. How to manage stress in a healthy way. We have to teach that also. How to deal with a breakup in a healthy way. How to form friendships. Or like I said, how to deal with peer pressure. So specific life skills in this context and life skills in general, the more we have taught them, they'll be in a better position to deal with the ups and downs in a better way. And there is evidence also, compared to only awareness lectures, if life skills program is there, the success rate is better. Veena, go ahead. And after that, we pass on the mic to sir.
There is this one person I know of, I can't name him, very brilliant, and he was working in office. वहाँ पे boss ने बोला था सबको पीना पड़ेगा. So although a teetotaler, he had to drink because just recently joined and with fear of losing the job. So जब उसने पिया that same night, I don't know, he must have binged. So when he returned home, he came in such a bad shape. He was the ideal student or the ideal kid in that entire society. And when he came home, I think this happens with alcoholics. They don't have a control on bladder bowel. So worst thing, he couldn't walk properly. Everyone saw him. It was of course in a late night, but people saw him coming in inebriated state, and he didn't have control over his emotions, and he went in some other place and did what was not supposed to be done. And people took him home and all. So he didn't know this. Of course, he was inebriated. But the next day, when he realized this, when he was told, and he realized that a lot of people have started seeing him in a very different light. This was his first drink. Unfortunately, it brought him in such a bad shape that it hit him so hard that he, out of that shame, decided that he will never drink. And he boycotted, I mean, he left the job, and he told his boss that because you made me drink, I lost that whatever little pride I had earned in my life. And he promised that he won't drink. And he made sure that now wherever he is going, he makes sure he has a own group, he has people working under him. He won't allow people to drink. If people drink, the first negative point is if someone is drinking, they are not allowed to work with him. So sometimes a negative incident with alcohol can also make people go in a positive way.
Yeah. So if we have to answer the question, how do we deal with peer pressure? Then probably one of the things is examples like this, which we have heard.
Yes.
If we share, then that would give them the conviction to deal with peer pressure, is suggestion 1. Suggestion 2, okay, like you said, if our workplaces become places wherein the boss forces people to drink, just
Drink.
imagine how difficult it is going to get. And
Yes.
therefore, I believe even if you want your children to be safeguarded, you cannot be working one-on-one. If
Yes.
fire is everywhere, your family will also catch it.
Yes.
To work at the community level and remove this normalization and glorification of drinking which is happening. And third, in my personal opinion, recommending is perfectly to be done, but maybe forcing a person not to do is similar to
Double-edged.
forcing a person to do it, right?
Yes, double-edged.
So I believe strongly recommending is good, but maybe, but yeah, I think, yeah, we shouldn't be forcing unless there is a consensus in the society. For example, if a school decides, okay, alcohol is not allowed in our school, it's a force, right? But that's allowed
Yes.
because there is a consensus. And similarly, there is a consensus in a company that these addictions are decreasing the work performance or the well-being of our employees, and if a community or a company, I think I'm okay with it. But while a lot of people are doing it, just forcing it on my 3-4 subordinates may not be a very acceptable thing. But still, I think if someone wants, I would definitely strongly recommend my close ones, but maybe not forcing. Okay.
Why
we are-
don't we have a strong
Right.
lobby like the alcoholic lobby? Anti-alcoholic, why we don't have a strong lobby? Why don't we have it?
If we decide to speak up, we will have. Just we have to work.